Hello. I see you're going to the pastry shop to get a donut. You're getting a cream donut, just as always. You always eat it outside the shop and the park. When you get to the park, you always sit on the same bench. Then you take out your donut to take a bite. And I'll always be there to watch you do it, not from very far. Hello and welcome to Wrapped in Books. My name is Pega, I'm an author, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Woman in the Purple Skirt by Imamura Natsuko. This book is modern Japanese literature. It was written by Imamura Natsuko in 2019, and it won the Akutagawa Book Prize the same year that it was published. Imamura previously had been nominated for the award 2 times. This book finally won her the most prestigious book award there is in Japan. Sometimes when you see books win prizes and awards, you go in with really high expectations and then the book doesn't deliver. This book, however, was different. I thoroughly enjoyed this book for reasons that I am going to explain in this review today. Today's review doesn't contain any spoilers. I'm going to explain the themes that I think are present in this book, are prominent in this book, so you can make your own decision, after watching this video, whether or not you're going to read it. If book reviews and book content is something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing to my channel so that you wouldn't miss the future videos. Now, without further ado, let's wrap ourselves in this book that is called The Woman in the Purple Skirt. First things first, a quick summary of the book. The story of The Woman in the Purple Skirt is not narrated by the woman in the purple skirt herself, but through the perspective of another woman whom in the book is referred to as the woman in the yellow cardigan. The woman in the purple skirt is being watched. She's being watched 24/7. Everywhere she goes, everything she does is under the watchful eyes of the woman in the yellow cardigan. The woman in the yellow cardigan knows where the woman in the purple skirt goes, what she eats, what she does when she gets home. She knows that she has had difficulties lately to find a job. She decides to help the woman in the purple skirt get a more stable job where she works, which is in a hotel as a cleaning lady. It is here that the story unfolds and secrets start to unravel. When comes a time that it seems like the life of the woman in the purple skirt is about to change dramatically, the woman in the yellow cardigan has to make a difficult decision. Does she continue her way and not introduce herself to the woman in the purple skirt? Or does she finally reveal her true identity? The woman in the yellow cardigan is a stalker. It was really clever of Imamura to choose a woman for this character, because if this was a man, this story would have taken a whole different turn. It would have been a horror story, basically. Don't get me wrong, the woman in the yellow cardigan is absolutely creepy. Sometimes it makes you uncomfortable to read from her point of view because she's doing really creepy things. And that is by design. You feel like someone watching the life of another through a peephole. Imamura does such a good job of putting you in the shoes of the woman in the yellow cardigan. There are moments in this book, especially towards the end, where the story kind of feels like a thriller. Imamura does a brilliant job also here to keep it on the verge of being a thriller and not completely crossing that line, because the book, while it has psychological thriller undertones, is not a thriller. So keeping the balance was really important, and I think Imamura does a really good job with it. Another thing that I think Imamura does very well in the book is keeping the identity of the woman in the yellow cardigan a secret. Throughout the book, she puts little sprinkles here and there to make you guess the identity of the woman in the yellow cardigan. When you read the book, you're always guessing, you're always thinking, who is this person? What is her motive? Why is she stalking the woman in the purple skirt? Does she know her somehow? Are they related? Were they friends before? You keep wondering about the identity of this mysterious woman. And Imamura does a really good job to keep you guessing, to keep you curious until basically the end of the book. This book is about 200 pages, I guess, and it does such a great job of creating suspense. The plot of The Woman in the Purple Skirt is actually very simple. There aren't many complications, there aren't many mysteries, going on, aside from the identity of the woman in the yellow cardigan. But the book still manages to be intriguing. There are some scenes in this book that are just beautifully written. One of them is regarding an orange, where the woman in the yellow cardigan eats an orange in the park. That scene is unbelievably well described. Also, there's a scene on the bus where the woman in the yellow cardigan decides to pick up a grain of rice from the woman in the purple skirt's coat while the bus is moving and while both of them are standing. And that scene is also written really well to show you how obsessed this woman is with the other woman. Now you might ask yourself, why is the woman in the yellow cardigan so obsessed with the woman in the purple skirt? There's that mystery to it, first of all, where you don't know until the end of the book whether or not these two women actually know each other. But the greater factor here is that the woman in the purple skirt is everything that the woman in the yellow cardigan isn't. The woman in the purple skirt seems very sociable. She goes to work, she immediately starts to form a bond with other staff. She gets into a relationship with the manager of the hotel. She knows how to form relationships. The woman in the yellow cardigan doesn't. Evident from her stalking the woman in the purple skirt for a very long time without even approaching her to say hello. This gets particularly more interesting when you think about Japan as a country where people have a lot of issues with forming relationships. Loneliness is one of the major problems in Japan. A lot of people are so lonely that they decide to go to these places, these companies that give you a rental family, and you pay for basically some actors to pretend to be your family for a specific amount of time. When you think about how far people go to feel any sort of relationship, the behavior of the woman in the yellow cardigan makes more sense to you. Throughout the book, you might ask yourself, okay, why doesn't she just, go to the woman in the purple skirt? Why doesn't she just say hello? And she almost does on a couple of occasions. When you take into account, her personality, and also the fact that I just mentioned about, the feeling of loneliness in Japan and how some people can't even find a real relationship, so they have to pay for a fake one, you start to realize why she is the way she is. This is also one of those books where everything that is written in the book at some point comes back into play. For me, one of the most important things about a book is exactly this. If you put an orange in your story, somewhere that orange has to come back and play a part. And if it doesn't, it's just an orange. That to me shows care. That to me shows the author's attention. There is also a number of social commentary in this book, especially regarding, working women, minimum wage, and how the working environment can be unfair. Most of the characters we see in this book are women, and most of them have lower paying jobs. Almost all of them are treated unfairly in this book. And we understand how this unfairness in the work environment is pushing them to do things that they might not be doing otherwise. This is also interesting because Imamura Natsuko also worked as a hotel staff herself for a while. So when you think about that and you read this book, you understand where she comes from. This book also has great writing, in my opinion. I read the translated version, the English version, and I think the writing was really crisp and to the point. I read some books where there was flowery prose, and I liked them, but most of the time it's not my cup of tea. I like a writing that is really straightforward, especially in modern literature. That is what I look for, which is why I really liked the writing in this book. This book has a lot of factors that I really like. It has great writing, it's not too long, it's not too complicated. It has a simple yet very intriguing premise that is executed very well. It has a quirky narrator, which I really like. The attention to detail in this book is also great. Color purple and color yellow being complementary to one another, being the colors that actually complete each other, which is also shown in one of the covers of this book. If you like modern Japanese fiction or modern fiction in general, I think you will enjoy this book as I did. Okay, so that's a wrap for today. That was The Woman in the Purple Skirt. Please like this video if you liked this video. I'll be back in the future with more book reviews. Until then, farewell.